Hello again, fellow YouTubers. Solomon Pleasant here for Team O.M.G. Vanguard, and we have another card by Vanguard clan analysis review thing. And today we have Granblue, my personal favorite clan. And I will continuously say that Granblue is my favorite. Undead Pirates. I mean, what else can you really say? And it wasn't my first, but it is still my personal favorite. And I will start off by saying, out of all the clan logos redesigned, for everything I dislike about the Spike relogo, I am pretty okay with the Granblue relogo. I mean, this is a pretty... It's clear that some effort was actually put into this one, and people actually were like, hey, let's actually make this look good. So, they did end up making that look good, and I thank Bushiroad for at least doing that. Because I'm not a big fan of the other clan logo redesigns, I don't like a lot of them, but Granblue's is one of the few that I actually like, so they at least did that right. So, that aside, let's actually just talk about what Granblue is. So, I may not be the most experienced with a lot of clans. Try to think, Royals, Oracles, I'm not, Die Police, I'm not, basically the ones that I had T and Monty in, I'm not experienced in those clans, and I kind of want them to get involved. I'm trying to think, what else am I not experienced in? I'm not experienced in Genesis, per se, but then again, Genesis isn't that good. I'm not that experienced with... crap, I can't think of anything, because I've tried most clans, that's the thing. Huh. I can't think of any other... Great Nature I know I'm not experienced with. Like, Great Nature is the one that I'll be like, yeah, I have no idea, but for all the non-experience I have with certain clans, Granblue easily makes up for it, because Granblue is the clan I feel I'm the most experienced with, and I feel I'm the most knowledgeable in that area. And that's not me trying to be, like, bragging or anything, far from that. I hate bragging, actually, and don't like doing it. But I'm just gonna say that I do kind of know a little bit more of what I'm talking about when it comes to this clan. So, starting off, what is Granblue's main concept? Well, their whole idea is self-milling. And I think Granblue to date is the only clan that can actually purposely mill themselves out of a deck. I know there are some other clans that can do it. Tachi, I heard, could do it. Oracles can do it. I've seen some clans do it. Link Joker can do it if you do it right. But Granblue's is the one that are consistently capable of milling themselves out. They are a very mill-based deck. But whenever they mill cards to gain power, like, the whole concept behind Granblue is this. Mill cards to get power for that turn, and then use those cards in the drop zone to essentially call them to rearguard and use your drop zone and set it up kind of as a second hand. So in a way, you're pretty much setting up a drop zone like you would set up the Soul for Oracle's Genesis or Dark Irregulars or Pale Moon. Basically, Granblue and Pale Moon are kind of the same, whereas Pale Moon focuses on manipulating the Soul. Granblue, same thing, but drop zone. And sometimes, but the difference is that sometimes those cards will stay in the field, sometimes they won't, and we'll kind of get into the mechanics of that. But overall, Granblue's idea is this. Mill stuff, get cards that you want in the drop zone, call those cards to rearguard, and then get tons of effects and bonuses off doing that. Now, sadly, Granblue, much like Great Nature, does not have an archetype. So, I'm going to actually make a lot of comparisons to Great Nature, because Granblue and Great Nature are, like, in the middle for, like, where they are as opposed to support and just, like, in general, how they get... They are the only two clans I think that don't have an archetype. That's just me making a statement now. I'm pretty sure... Cancel. I'm pretty sure Granblue and Great Nature are the only two clans that don't have an archetype. Don't fully quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain of that. Oh wait, and Nubatama doesn't have an archetype, that's right. Because they're under-supported too. And yeah, I'm going to be mentioning a lot how Granblue is very under-supported, and I'm just going to say that right off the bat. Granblue is not a very supported clan. And you'll kind of see that when I explain it, because there are no archetypes, so I'll just kind of go into seasons. Now, in the anime of Vanguard, the big guy who's been using Granblue is Goki Daimonji. Interesting guy. Interesting player of Granblue. The most consistent one. There's been some other Granblue players throughout the seasons, but throughout seasons 1 through 3, it was Goki. There was one other guy using Granblue in Season 2. I don't remember him, though. It probably says right there. on the Wicca. And then Season 4, we got some other guy using Granblue, but we don't talk about Season 4. And then Season 5, we haven't seen it, because most of the clans in Season 5 don't exist, per se. So, talking about Season 1 Granblue was this. Well, Granblue is actually one of the first clans to be introduced, because Set 1. Like, if you see a Set 1, that means they're one of the first, they're the first clan of their nation, probably. So, Granblue was the first clan of their nation, but Set 2 is where they kind of got most of their support for Season 1, and Season 1 decks of Granblue were basically this. Run Baskurg, and then run other cards to kind of combo with Baskurg, and then just kind of have your field, and then just kind of see what happens. The idea was this. You would Superior Ride with Spirit Exceed, which is one of my personal favorite cards, and there's actually a picture of most of the guys from Season 1. This is your majority of your units from Season 1. Superior Ride with Exceed to get stuff in the soul, then ride Baskurg, and then just kind of sit on Baskurg until you're in a position where you don't have many cards left to guard with, so you basically Mega Blast and go balls to the wall with a Superior calling your entire field. Baskurg's Mega Blast idea was counterblasting 5, soul blasting 8, and basically calling up to 5 units to rear guard. So Baskurg's whole idea was, oh, I don't have a field, now I do. So you can already see where, like, Season 1 Granblue would be able to fight Kagero or clans that basically got rid of a field. And that's one of the big things that was started off with Granblue. No matter what you killed, there's most likely going to be a way for someone to bring it back. That's the thing with Granblue. You can kill some of their units all you want, but those units can come back, and most of the time they do come back. So that's one of the things with Granblue. Moving on to Season 2, we get a ton of stuff in Set 6, Breaker Limits, and Breaker Limits is actually the majority of where we get most of our support. And this is where we get Cocytus, and this is where Cocytus becomes the main deck, and the deck I ran during Season 2 was having Cocytus as your main Vanguard, having some Dragon Spirits there, and basically just running Exceed and Swordsmaster as your other 2 units to be able to Superior Ride ahead of your opponent. That was the big thing. Cocytus also had his own Superior Ride chain kind of thing. It was really confusing, and not that many people liked it because it really kind of banked on you going second or you going first in order for it to work. But it wasn't the worst. And that was the deck for a while. And yeah, after Breaker of Limits, we got no other support. So Granblue's just kind of sitting there like, okay, I guess we'll just kind of wait. And that entire time, cancel. Cancel. And the entire time through Season 2, Granblue's, as the clans got support, like Gold Paladin and all these people got support, Granblue was always just kind of sitting there going, oh, we only have our 1 limit break. And Cocytus wasn't that good of a limit break. He was a standard vanilla, I get +5 limit break. It really wasn't much to talk about. It was just kind of there, and it wasn't that stellar. So Granblue's just kind of sitting there fading from obscurity, becoming less and less of a meta deck because they couldn't get enough support. And this is where the main problem comes with Granblue. They don't get a lot of support. They really don't. Like, Season 1 combined from the first 2 sets, which is all they got from Season 1, a total of 19 cards. Season 2, they got a total of 25 from 1 set. So they got 1 set of cards, that's it. Season 3, 7 cards. Okay. Season 4, 12 cards. Alright, that's a little bit better. And now we're on Season 5. How many cards do we get? 2. Oh. From a fighter's collection. Oh, that's... Thanks, Bushiroad. Bushiroad really likes to reduce Granblue's, what Granblue has as opposed to cards. Granblue, I will say, in terms of under-supporting, you have Mega Colony at the top, then you got Granblue dead second. Because Granblue has some things that they don't have yet. Like, Granblue was one of the last few clans. Actually, Granblue got their spam card before a lot of other people did. So, there's that. So, at the very least, Granblue got a spam card, or Quintet Wall, for those of you who actually still want to, you know, try to sound like you know something, but really you don't. Spam guard, that's what it is. So when we got that, we're like, thank you, Bushiroad gods. Thank you for actually giving us some sort of support. And now we're just kind of sitting here waiting for a Gustion reprint that we haven't gotten. Unlike, you know, all the meta clans that got their reprints already. Thanks, Golden Royals. Anyway, moving on to Season 4, Granblue did actually get meta Legion support. They got Legion support in a set, which is actually a high honor considering almost every other clan didn't get Legion support in a box. They had to get it promo style. So the sheer idea of Granblue actually getting support in a box for Legion is pretty amazing in and of itself. Their Legions are decent. Decent is the best word I can use to describe because there's really not much there. And also because Night Mist is way better, but we'll talk about that when we get into actual specific cards. And in Season 5 we got 2 strides and we're pretty much in the same boat as almost every other clan in the game. Except for your extremely meta clans, we're pretty much in the same boat as everyone else. As in non-existent. Anyway, so let's just take a look at specific cards. Now, thing with Granblue, 2 ways to run it. The really intense way, crit, 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 nothing but crit, you run nothing but crit. Sometimes you'll run heals, I run heal, and nothing else but crit. That's how Granblue works. Crit cannonball. That is the term I've given it. It is a critical cannonball where you're pretty much drive checking crits every drive check, or you're drive checking a heal and you're like, nice, something in the drop zone. Other way to run it is you can run stands and draw if you're running a less serious and a more specific style of deck. I've seen draws in a Granblue deck. I barely see stands, but a new stand that came out, Performing Zombie, I hear some people are using that, but that's the thing. So I'm just going to go through... I'm just first going to talk about the main starters. Granblue has had 3 consistent starters. You have Skeleton Assault Troops Captain, which is your Grade 3 Searcher. You have your Season 1 hardcore players who use, where are you? Guiding Zombie as your starter, which is pretty much... Guiding Zombie is pretty much Captain Night Kid, except worse. Captain Night Kid is your very special starter that I personally still use. I still find it as one of the best Granblue starters. Some people went to the Skeleton Assault Troops Captain, which, given that Stride and Legion are a thing now, I can kind of condone that. I can understand that. I still prefer Night Kid because Night Kid basically says, Counterblast 1, put me in the soul, look at the top 10 cards, put 1 in the drop zone, shuffle the rest back in. I still think that is a better starter because I personally feel that choosing 1 out of 10 cards that you probably will need later in the game and putting it in the drop zone, so to Superior Call, is a better strategy than just getting your 3 because... or trying to get your 3 out of the 5 cards because 1, Grade 3 Searchers aren't the most accurate. And 2, so what if you have a Grade 3? You're gonna draw a Grade 3 at some point, unless you're grade locked, and even then, Stride figured out a way to cheat that, so you're going to get a Grade 3 at some point, guys. Like, you don't need to worry about getting Grade 3s, in my opinion. I understand using that Grade 3 Searcher. I still prefer Night Kid as the better starter. I just think he's better. And then there's the Legion-based starter, which I'm not a fan of just because it's Legion-based, and... if you want a starter to stick around, you don't make it specific to one specific type of skill. Why do you think all the Limit Break starters aren't good? Bushy Road. Because they're specific. Don't make starters Legion specific, just like Limit Break specific. It turns out to be Garbo. Though to be fair, Fleeting Pirate Point Graz isn't the worst starter ever. He's actually not that bad of a starter for a heavy Legion deck, but even still, I wouldn't run him. I'd still run Night Kid first. And now, before I get on to Grade 1s and P-Guards and that kind of stuff, I will talk specifically about one other Grade 0 unit that is worth talking about, and that would be Chappie the Ghosty. Now, every Granblue player knows about Chappie, but for those of you who don't know Chappie, I'll just kind of explain Chappie and what he does. Now, as far as I know, I don't think many other clans run Grade 0s other than Triggers and your starter. Granblue is a clan that actually runs other Grade 0s that you simply use as guard material. And I don't think I've seen another clan do this, but what Chappie the Ghosty says is very simple. When you place him on the guard zone, you may search your deck for a Granblue unit and put it in the drop zone, and then shuffle your deck. Why is that good? Well, in Granblue, your whole idea is getting specific cards in the drop zone. So say you run Ice Flow Swordsman Night Snow, who, in order to get his combo off anyway, he needs to be in the drop zone. Oh hey, I guard with Chappie to prevent me from taking no damage. Thanks, Chappie, you just gave me that Ice Flow Swordsman Night Snow into the drop zone. Thank you, Chappie. Now, the thing with Chappie, though, is how many do you run? You do not run for Chappie. That will deck you out so fast. Because Granblue loves decking themselves out. You really run 2 to 3 Chappie, and even then 3 is still kinda crazy. I personally run 2 Chappie, but 3 is still a bit crazy. Do not run for Chappie. Do not. You will kill yourself if you do that. Unless you're running a suicide build, then go all for it. But still, Chappie is a pretty valid 0k guarder, and my dog's freaking out. It's okay, buddy. He's okay. Anyway, so moving on to grade 1s, if my thing will let me. Alright, so grade 1s. So first off, I'll talk about P-guards and spam guards. This is something I usually don't talk about because spam guards are kind of pointless in most decks because they're pretty much there for Legion. So if you're not running Legion, it's really pointless to run spam guards. But wait, isn't there a clan that focuses on getting cards in the drop zone? So wouldn't it be beneficial to have a spam guard in a certain deck that would mill like that? Well yes, Granblue is that deck. When Granblue got a spam guard, everyone who played Granblue rejoiced because of how useful that would be. Specifically, it is Riff Banshee, and I'm not really going to click on her because you can go find her for yourself. That I'm not going to... It's a spam guard. Counterblast 1, put the top 5 cards of your deck into the guard zone, that goes to the drop zone. That's really good for Granblue because not only can we defend ourselves then, but we also get cards in the drop zone. That's good. So, I'm basically going to talk about the specific standards in a Granblue deck. Now, you have your standard 7k that comes back from the drop zone when you do something. Deadly Nightmare and Samurai Spirit, respectfully, are those units. Deadly Nightmare says Soul Blast 2 and kill another Granblue unit. That is, no, it just says choose one of your Granblue units and kill it. And you can call it to rearguard for Soul Blast of 2. Anyway, so Nightmare is pretty much a Soul Blast version of, where are you? Samurai Spirit. Samurai Spirit and Nightmare are kind of the same thing, so it really depends on what kind of deck you're running and how you utilize that deck. That depends on what units you use. I personally use Samurai Spirit because I have a different unit that Soul Blasts a lot more, so Samurai Spirit's a bit of a better option. But what Samurai Spirit is, like Nightmare from the drop zone, Counterblast 1, choose one of your Granblue rearguards, retire it, and if you have a Granblue Vanguard, call it to rearguard. So, actually both of them kind of do the same thing, except one's Counterblast 1, the other is a Soul Blast 2. Both of them, horse apiece, really depends on how your deck's running. If you run a deck where you can Soul Charge, but you really don't Soul Blast that much, Nightmare would be the better way to go, but if you run a deck where you do Soul Blast a good amount, it's better to run Samurai Spirit, even if your Vanguards are Counterblast heavy, which there's a good portion of Granblue units that are Counterblast heavy. Now, before I talk about the obvious, really good unit, I will talk about one other unit that is worth mentioning in a Granblue lineup, and that would be Evil Shade. Evil Shade is the Ruin Shade Grade 1 clone. And what it does is put 2 cards from your deck to the drop zone, top 2. This is a standard Granblue Miller. If you have Granblue Vanguard, get +4. So, mill 2 cards, become a 10k. It is a pretty fair trade, in my opinion, for Granblue, because again, our whole idea is milling our deck, getting specific cards in the drop zone, so that we can use them later. So to get power while doing that as well is a pretty nice touch. Now, let's talk about the obvious new MVP of pretty much every Granblue player's deck. Let's talk about the obvious MVP, Sea-Strolling Banshee. This was given to us in Season 3. It's still really good. Everybody still uses it from what I remember. Soul Blast 1. When this unit is placed on rearguard from the drop zone, if you have a Granblue Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. So Dancing Cutlass, except better, because not only do I call it from the drop zone, it's also a 6k, so it's already stronger, but for one, like, you could use... Cutlass has that trade-off of using it whenever, but it's way better just do the sea strolling combo because Granblue can get units out of the drop zone so easy. Especially with the brake ride, which I will talk about later, but, no, too far. But sea strolling O.M.G, still MVP of a lot of people's decks. Is it a good card? It's good. And it's only a rare, so that makes all our Granblue players happy. Alright. So, talking about grade 2s, I'm going to start with the obvious figurehead for a lot of Granblue players, and even though, like, I personally don't think a lot of people really should still run it, some people still run it, and it kind of surprises me today. One fellow in particular even uses this over Corrode, and I'm vastly concerned as to why, but he knows who he is, and he probably doesn't watch these videos anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, Captain Nightmist. He is your 8K with 2 abilities. And I will kind of explain, like, because this was one of our better units in Season 1, he had the continuous ability on Vanguard to, if you have a copy of Nightmist in the drop zone, become an 11K, which is nice, I guess. And has the Counterblast 1 ability from the drop zone of choose a Granblue that's grade 1 or greater, kill it, and you can call this to rearguard instead. Now, this used to be good in Season 1, I guess, but nowadays it's kind of not as good. And here are my gripes with it. One, that continuous Vanguard ability is kind of garbage because I don't believe in 8Ks becoming 11Ks when I could just simply run a 10K or an 11K instead. I really just don't see the purpose behind that. I really don't. Because Granblue does have a 10K and 11K. Blue Blood is the 10K and Storm Ride is the 11K from what I remember. The other thing is his Counterblast ability, while it is cheaper, a little bit cheaper than Samurai Spirit, I guess, Samurai has the trade-off of killing whatever, whereas I have to kill a grade 1 or greater for Nightmist. And here's the thing. At the minimum, I can kill a grade 1. And also this is the act ability, so I can't use this auto. If it was auto, I could understand then, because I can kill it after attacking, which would be nice, but I can't, which is still fine because Granblue does have a lot of act abilities that have to be set up before the attack phase. But why would I kill a grade 1 that's at the minimum of that's at the max in 8K? So, because most people are going to run this. Romario, one of your 7Ks that comes back, Sea Strolling, and then your other tech cards like Dragon Spirit if you still run Cocytus, me. Or Evil Shade, which a lot of other people are going to run, or, you know, Cutlass if you're really going balls to the wall, Soul Blast to heavy draw. Now, if you're running Cutlass, I can understand somewhat using Nightmist because that is a little bit of a better trade-off, but you're pretty much trading off this. 2,000 power for you're pretty much trading 2,000 more power and an intercept. When instead, you could play a whole lot of other units, like one I'm going to bring up super quick. But there are just a slew of other units right now that you could play that would be a lot more beneficial than just playing Nightmist's Counterblast. So, I don't find Nightmist to be the best anymore. And there's actually... oh, here it is. I already find Deadly Spirit to be better, because one, he's a standard 9K, which numbers matter in this game. He also has the Act Soul Blast ability from the drop zone of Soul Blast 2, kill grade 1 or greater, and call this to rearguard. So, pretty much Deadly Spirit is Nightmist, but better in pretty much every way, in my opinion. Because I really don't like 8Ks on rearguard unless they're grade 1. Like, I don't like 8K grade 2 Vanguards. I really don't. Especially when they have those abilities of, hey, I become an 11K. Well, why didn't you just call out a 10K and make it a little bit easier on yourself? So in any regards, I just really don't understand. I just really don't like 8K stuff. So, I'm not really going to talk about Dragon-Ended Ghoul Dragon, even though he's a good Legion support thing. Basically, he says, I come out of the drop zone, if I hit something, I kill it. So, I guess that's okay. You got your special... cancel. Cancel. Oh, that's fantastic. Alright. Let's, I'm trying to think. I think, Pirates Belle Piant Blanc, I hope to God I'm saying that right, is your other standard Legion thing. It's your standard Legion copy, but it has the ability of when something's called from the drop zone, you can counterblast one and call this out from the drop zone as well. That's a decent card. I'll give them that. That's slightly decent, but let me talk about two other MVPs of the Granblue as of this moment. Let's start with the more controversial of the two MVPs before we talk about the obvious MVP of the Grade 2 lineup at least. Now, this is a card I really enjoy, and they even gave it a Grade 1 version too, which is Airman, I believe. Dragon Corrode Corrupt Dragon. Now, I'm calling out Warlock in 36 right now and saying he hates this card. From what I checked last time, I'm very, not up to date with his channel, so I wouldn't know, but I doubt he's posted much. This is basically your 12K. Something Granblues did not get until the very close to the end of Season 3, when everybody else was getting their standard 12K archetype base. Considering Granblue doesn't have an archetype, this is actually a pretty standard ability. When this unit is placed on rigor from the drop zone, if you have a Granblue Vanguard, this unit gets +3. Now, considering around this time the Break Ride was a thing, this is basically a 17K swinger. And why does Warlock not like this card and runs Night Mist instead? That is a really good question that I don't know the answer to. But fortunately, most other Granblue players do use Dragon Corrode Corrupt Dragon because it's a really good card. It is your standard 12K-er. And again, it's Granblue. It's really easy to call it out. It gets a ton of power super quick by doing little to nothing. And it's pretty much just better than running Night Mist. And sure, you can run Blue Blood for 15, but I could run Corrode for 17. Trade-off. And finally, the obvious MVP that everyone can agree with, and is Grade 2 MVP of every Granblue deck. A standard run 2 to 3 of it, no arguments. And I'm pretty sure I run 3 of it, I can't remember. 2 to 3 of it easily. No arguments whatsoever, hands down, best Grade 2 for Granblue, Ruined Shade. Everyone agrees. Ruined Shade is probably one of the best Grade 2s we have for Granblue. One of the best support we have. It has the auto Vanguard and Rearguard ability of put 2 cards from the top of your deck into the drop zone. Middle of the top 2 cards of your deck. If you have Granblue Vanguard, you can basically get +2. So, become an 11K for a mill of 2. Really nice, solid card. Every Granblue player that has it runs it. It is a standard card. You want Ruined Shades in your deck, period. There are no arguments, and I'm sorry for those who have to get them. I can't even remember how I got mine, but I know I have them and I enjoy them because they are one of my they are really awesome units. Every Granblue player enjoys their Ruined Shades. Because it's basically just milling for power, which in Granblue, that's really nice. After that fantastic incident, alright, so moving on to Grade 3s. There are a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to click on all these, but I'm going to mention a bunch of them. Deadly Swordsmaster. Take Deadly Nightmare, and Deadly Spirit, kill them both from your rear guard. Ride this on Vanguard. Nice way to get above your opponent when you're grade locked or when you just want to get an extra drive check. Spirit Exceed. Put Samurai Spirit and Night Spirit into your soul from rear guard. Ride this on top from the drop zone. Another way to get on top and another way to basically get an advantage over your opponent or to get over grade lock, and also helps Baskirk out. Spirit Exceed is one of my personal favorite cards just because of its artwork, and that's a standard thing, and also because it's been with me for a long time, so there's that. Other cards. I've talked a lot about Cocytus Reverse, so I'm not going to talk about him as cancel. Anyway, I've talked a lot about Cocytus Reverse in previous videos, so I'm not going to talk about him or normal Cocytus here. Nor am I going to talk about Baskirk because I've already covered those units. They're pretty average at best. Monster Frank was one of your first superior rides. He's not the best though. Barbaros is kind of there. Normangle's kind of there. Before I talk about our obvious, before I talk about the units that need to be mentioned a bit more, I'm going to talk about the Legion actually. which is something I don't do in many of my videos, but I think for this one it's kind of worth talking about because these things are kind of decent at best. I'm just going to kind of actually bring something up just because it's really weird. I'm not going to lie. So talking about the legions, young pirate noble Piont Noir. I hope I'm saying that right. He has the Legion skill as well as the following abilities. Auto on Vanguard, which is something that doesn't actually come across for a lot of Granblue grade 3s, so that's actually pretty interesting. Put the top 3 cards of your deck into the drop zone when this unit Legion, so it has to be when it does it, which I'm not a fan of. You may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from drop zone, call it to rear guard, which isn't the worst, because I can corrode that and then call out his Legion counterpart, Piont Blanc. Again, I hope I'm saying that right, but basically I can get out a 2-for-1 with a mill of 3 and a counterblast of 1, so I guess that couldn't hurt. And with corrode, I can at least get +3 off that, so again, there's benefits to that. It's not the best Legion skill in my opinion, but it's not like complete garbage. It's just something I'm not the biggest fan of, per se. And the other auto ability on Vanguard is choose one of your rear guards, kill it. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the battle. Which, okay, that's valid. Killing off your rear guard is not like one of the worst strategies. If you're running stand, it's not a good idea, but if you're running other Granblue cards, I guess it could be good. Now, Piont Blanc got an interesting second skill, but let me just talk about Negro Bolts. I'm talking about Oscar. Now, which Doctor of the Dead Sea Necrobolt is actually a lower rarity than Piont Blanc, which I found interesting. I don't think it has an image for it. Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, look at that. That is a rare, which I found very interesting, and I personally find this to be a better skill than Piont Blanc. Necrobolt's skills are, first auto on Vanguard, you may counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards and retire it, so when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if this unit is in Legion, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from your drop zone, call it your rear guard. I'm very interested in that kind of skill because, one, that's an auto ability, so I can do that whenever. Oh wait, it has to be when I attack, but basically I can get off another attack. I really enjoy that, and also I can get off Ghoul Dragon or Corrode Dragon very easily. Also, the auto Vanguard ability of when this unit attacks, if you have another unit in your southern column, get +3, so become a 23k swinger by itself. And again, this first ability, like, I'm really surprised Piont Blanc didn't have this, because this seems like something that would be more of a double rare version, or a double rare worthy skill. Because 1, it doesn't have to bank on the Legion effect, and 2, it gets me another attack, which is really, really nice. And considering because I can pretty much just call out a Corrode, kill it, and then call out another Corrode. So I can pretty much get out another attack, which, in my opinion, is a very good way to play a lot of things. More attacks equals more times, more things to my opponent's guard, or, yeah, pretty much more attacks is good in most situations. So I'm really confused on why this got the lower rarity, and why this got shoved into the rare category, and why it's not even, like, mentioned as much. But what can you do? And before I talk about the stride units, there are, like, other units I would like to talk about super fast, so I'm going to actually so my first thing is this pair of Deathseeker Thanatos and Dragon Undead Skull Dragon. Now, I'm just gonna talk about Skull Dragon while I click on Thanatos. Skull Dragon has the ability of Counterblast 1, kill a unit that is grade 1 or higher, I believe, and call to rear guard, and at the end of the turn it dies, as well as the ability of when this unit attacks, it gets when this unit attacks a Vanguard, I believe, or when it attacks something, get +3, so it becomes a 13k swinger because it's a 10k base. And a lot of people actually used to use this and combo this with Thanatos, who has the skill of auto on rearguard, counterblast 1, retire this unit. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, and you have a Granblue Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a Granblue other than Deathseeker Thanatos from the drop zone and call it to rear guard. So a lot of people would actually just combo this with Skull Dragon to get off a pretty good amount of attacks, which I'm really confused why people stop using. I can understand not using Deathseeker Thanatos as much, but why have people really stopped using Skull Dragon? Is it because people don't like running grade 3s as their... Do people just not like running grade 3s on rearguard? Do people just not like that? I'm very, very confused as to why people stopped using Skull Dragon. Because I remember that being a big thing at the time, and I'm just really confused on why people stopped. Because I remember it being a pretty decent combo at the very least. It's a pretty good combo. And finally, before we get on to the grade 4s, let's talk really quick about the MVPs of, my personal MVPs of Granblue at the moment. First, we'll talk about the obvious MVP, the Brake Ride. Which, I forgot the name of it for a while, but I remember now. Lord of the Seven Seas Night Mist. So, Night Mist grade 3 older brother, so to speak. Or, Night Mist beefed up and pretty much better in every way. This is the Brake Ride ability of get your Vanguard plus 10, obviously, and choose 2 Granblues from the drop zone, call them to rear guard, give them +5, and at the end of the turn, they die. Also, during your turn, if the number of Granblue rears you have is 4 or more, get +2. I barely get that skill off because of the way I play Granblue, but why is this Brake Ride so good? It calls 2 units to the drop zone, gives them +5, and then they die. Why is that good? Couple of reasons. One, power to your units that you call from the drop zone is sweet. Especially with stuff like Corrode or Sea Strolling, where you can get off additional effects, or you call out units that need to be called out with other skills like Samurai, or maybe Dragon Undead if you're using that, or, you know, other units that you necessarily need to call out. Now you can just Brake Ride and call them out for free, basically. That's also really nice. 3, I like that they die at the end of the turn. Now, this is where most people get confused. Why is that a good thing? Again, field destruction. When you're facing decks like Link Joker, Kagero, and Narukami, very often, especially Kagero, because apparently no one knows how to run anything else with Kagero when it comes to field destruction, it's nice to have a deck where I'm not really threatened by that because I don't have units on the field. They're dead at the end of the turn, so they only work during my turn, and I can just keep calling them back and bring them up later and rise them from the dead once more. I can keep calling them back out. So, this is also why I like I mentioned this in my Spike Brothers review too, that I like that it's a very anti-field destruction, which it counters a good amount of decks. Now, against decks that aren't as heavy on field destruction, more just on brute power, such as the Paladins, it isn't as best to have them dead, but honestly, the fact that they died at the end of the turn never really bothered me. And maybe that's just because I like just because how I play Granblue, it just really doesn't bother me that they die at the end of the turn. But also, oftentimes when they die at the end of the turn, it's kind of inconsequential because of how I combo with this skill with this guy right here, which is kind of my MVP of the deck right now. At least my deck, and I still think a good amount of people who still use limit breaks and still kind of do all that trying and whatnot. Ice Flow Swordsman Night Snow. Now, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna say at first, I wasn't the biggest fan of this card and actually preferred Kokai's Reverse a little bit more over this card. I'm gonna be completely honest with that. At first, I wasn't the biggest fan of this card. I thought it was kind of mediocre. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and that's probably because A, I didn't know how to combo it right, and 2, I was just more focused on trying to keep Kokaitis positive because a lot of people didn't like Kokaitis. Let's just talk about his skills. And also, that blue act really does kind of put a damper on things, because I prefer auto abilities as opposed to act abilities. But let's just kind of talk about them. First, his act Limit Break, which is a Counterblast 1, and choose one of your rear guards and retire it. If you do so, choose one card from your drop zone, call to rear guard, and that unit gets plus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. This ability can't be used for the rest of the turn. That ability can't be used for the rest of the turn did kind of damper me a little, but when I realized how I could combo it with its second skill, I realized, oh wait, one's enough. And here's why. Its act from the drop zone ability is Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 2. If you have a grade 3 Vanguard, ride this unit as stand. Now, at first, I didn't particularly like that because I'm like, okay, why is it specific to grade 3? And I still kind of hold by that thought of it would be nice if I can call that out so that I don't have to, you know, end up getting grade locked. It'd be very nice just to call that out whenever. Like, if it's a grade 2 or greater, I think everybody would run that because it's pretty much matching up with Exceed and Swordsmaster at that point. But here's why I really like this unit now. Its ability to work on grade 3 works like this. I use a brake ride to brake ride on top of the brake ride, so Night Mist on top of Night Mist. Don't make any fanfiction about that, please, for the love of everything. So I Night Mist on top of Night Mist, and then I Night Snow. So as of now, I have 4 units resurrected on the field that all die at the end of the turn with plus 5,000 power, so I have 2 rows of 10,000 power boost total. So assuming I call out 2 corrodes, that's going to be 2 70k swingers by themselves, plus whatever I call out to boost them. And then I can basically just counterblast 1, kill a rearguard that's boosting my kill the rearguard currently boosting my Vanguard, get out Evil Shade, and make Evil Shade even stronger. And I will cover this more in my deck profile of Granblue because this is a really awesome combo, but oh my god, can Ice Flow Swordsman Night Snow really rack up points. He can rack up power super fast, and he's amazing for that. So, Night Snow, I'm sorry I doubted you ever. I'm so sorry. Especially when you compare it to Legion and how that whole combo of brake riding on top of the brake ride plus Night Snow is already a much better combo in my opinion than any of what the Legions can offer. I still find Night Snow better. Now, this video is probably going to be longer than a lot of my other ones, probably because I only cut out twice and it's gone for almost an hour now, but I'm just going to talk about the strides real quick just to kind of emphasize Granblue's lack of support before I kind of wrap it up. So, first, I want to talk about this guy just because of his name, Ice Prison Underworld God Cocytus Negative. 1, I swear to God, Bushiroad is just trying to make Cocytus go as negative and as dark as they possibly can. Like, first we had Ice Prison Necromancer Cocytus, Ice Prison Hades Emperor Cocytus Reverse, and now Ice Prison Underworld God Cocytus Negative. They're trying so hard to drag him as much to death as they possibly can. They're just trying to make him as sad as possible, and I really feel bad for him. Now, the problem with Granblue's strides, the only support that Granblue has at the moment, is that it's very mediocre. Its first one is Stride and Counterblast 1, put the top 3 cards of your deck into the drop zone, like Cocytus Reverse, except without the lock. And if you have a Heart of Cocytus, so if you have Cocytus or Cocytus Reverse as your Vanguard beforehand, you may choose a card from drop zone, call to rearguard, and if that unit had Cocytus in its name, you may choose a grade 1 or less rearguard call from drop zone and give it +4. Now, why does that have to be Cocytus specific? Like, not the effect about having Cocytus as your heart. That I kind of get, because that kind of forces you to play Cocytus because this is Cocytus negative. But why would I call... Because Cocytus currently has 2 units with Cocytus in their name. Both of them are grade 3, both of them do nothing on Vanguard, both of them do nothing on rearguard. One's a 10k, one's an 11k, and I don't get extra power from calling it out. So, really, it's basically call out something that does nothing on rearguard to essentially call out a unit that gives +4, so you can pretty much, at the max, get a 10, 11, 12 if you're doing the... You can pretty much get like a 12 to 10 thing, or depending on which card you call out, or if you call out Dragon Spirit, you can actually get a pretty decent combo, because then you can actually validate running Dragon Spirit in your deck. But, so you think I'd like this, but at the same time, I really, like, unless Bushiroad has some idea where in the next booster set, they're gonna unleash, like, Cocytus as an actual archetype, which actually kind of scares me, because so far, I've seen the Cocytus support, and I'm very scared as to if Bushiroad would actually give Cocytus support like that. Because he does actually have a ride chain, and he does have units that help get him out. So, if they're doing that, I'd be impressed, but at the same time concerned. But I'm pretty certain they're not going to do that because, one, it's Granblue, two, it's Cocytus. I don't see really any purpose to my dogs distracting me. Any real purpose to, you know, making an archetype for that. But I could be wrong, they could do that, so fingers crossed for that. But until Cocytus gets like a full deck and a full archetype and full support and junk, there's really like, it's really a mediocre card at best because I'm pretty much getting out 2 units with 1 unit getting power. And the other unit just being dead in the water. Essentially. No pun intended. Ha 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 ha. So, finally, I'm going to talk about the other guy, and again, very average in my opinion at best, but I'm going to treat this guy kind of like how, based on my past experience with Night Snow. Pirate King of the Abyss Blueheart is the other stride support and the only other new support we currently got for Granblue, and he has the once per turn counterblast ability like Cocytus, except his once per turn counterblast one is choose 2 cards from the drop zone, call them to rearguards that are full. Okay, I can see this being comboed, and I can see this working. Like, if you don't have much of a field, that you can call out some zeros and then actually call out some valid support. The thing is, though, like, I'm very interested to see how people are going to be able to combo this, because right now I don't really see that many potentials for really comboing it, because I get 2 and I lose 2. So this card really, at the moment, seems like it would only work under the circumstances of I'm at a disadvantage. And I actually do prefer Cocytus negative a little bit more, because at the very least I can call them wherever, and I can call them to open rearguards, so I can build up my field a little bit more, which in Granblue it's nice to do that. So, until I see a way to combo it, or I see a way where, I guess you could combo it with peons, which I think with both strides you can actually combo it with grade 2 that says, hey, something is called out from the drop zone, I'll come out too. I can see that being valid, but at the same time it's like, So, I'm very iffy on this one. Like, I'll need to see it in action and see it be comboed before I truly give my mark on what I feel about Blueheart, as well as Cocytus negative, because again, why is that so specific to Cocytus? It just really confuses me. So overall, where do I rank Granblue? Now, Granblue is my absolute favorite. So where do I rank them? I rank them mid-tier. Just solid mid-tier. And here's why. They're good, and the support they get is, for the most part, really good. The problem is they don't get a lot, and they often fall behind. Like, again, Granblue got set 1 and 2, and then they got nothing else. They fell behind. Got Season 2 support, fell behind because they only had 1 limit break. Got Season 3 support, became valid for a while because, like, Night Mist was pretty much the savior at that point, and he really brought Granblue back up into popularity. And then Season 3 was over, and we got Season 4. Granblue got their Legion support at the very last possible time. And their Legion support is average at best. And while it can combo with Night Mist is probably one of the few break rides, and I think Granblue is still one of the few clans where it's like, hey, break riding's still good, because I'm that good of a break ride. But the Legion support was kind of meh at best. It was kind of average at best. Some of the cards actually have potential, like Piant Blanc, I think actually does have potential and can work in certain decks. It's counterblast heavy, but it could work. And then you got the Stride support, which right now is very, very average. And I still, again, I'm just saying average right now because I haven't seen any other support for Granblue because we barely get support, but when we do, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, so we have very inconsistent support, and because of that, Granblue isn't allowed to become a very top-tier deck like it could if it got valid enough support consistently. If Granblue got consistent support, I would easily put it to very top mid-tier to maybe low top tier. I would. But considering their inconsistent support, and considering they don't have an archetype, and considering they just have they do have multiple decks, but only one or two, a handful of them sometimes work. And the fact that they fade in and out of obscurity a lot makes me force them to put them into the mid-tier category. They are very solid mid-tier. It's still one of my favorite decks. I really, really love Granblue. And this almost makes me want to do my deck profile right now, but I'm going to wait. So, anyway, this has been Solemn Pleasant from Team O.M.G Vanguard. This has been the clan Granblue, and this is Solemn Pleasant signing off.